Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be looking at this blueprint we got for a potential podcast called Behind the Hustle.
Okay.
And, at first glance, you might be thinking,
Another one.
Another success story podcast. Like, how many of these are there?
Right.
But I think this one is different. And so, the basic idea is, instead of just getting those polished success stories that we see all the time, what if we peel back the curtain and really look at the
nitty gritty.
Yeah, the messy, the chaotic, all the stuff that goes on.
That nobody talks about.
Behind the scenes that nobody talks about,
right.
Yeah,
I think that's what makes it really interesting. It's all about that vulnerability, Imagine hearing a CEO talk openly about their anxieties while building their company.
Oh, yeah.
Or an athlete who reveals their fear of failure despite all their victories. It's that kind of raw honesty, I think, that just makes these stories so relatable and I think helps destigmatize all those struggles that we often, kind of associate with success.
Yeah, that's what I like about it too, is I feel like it would be very refreshing to hear that.
Yeah.
And not just that typical, I worked hard and I made it.
Yeah. I never gave up.
Nobody's path is like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's never a straight line.
So, okay. I'm already hooked. So how do they think this podcast would bring that vulnerability to life?
Well, they have some interesting ideas.
Okay.
For segments. One that they call The Struggle.
Okay.
Where guests share their absolute lowest point.
Wow.
Not just it was tough, really getting into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
The dark moments.
I mean, that's I feel like that's almost like a mini masterclass right there in resilience.
Yeah.
If you can hear somebody talk about how they navigated that and came out stronger on the other side.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be so inspiring for listeners that are facing their own challenges.
Yeah, totally. And I think what would even make it more impactful is inviting a diverse range of guests for this segment. Think about it, a struggling entrepreneur, an artist who's battling creative block, someone even facing a personal crisis. I think these stories, they would resonate with different audiences, and it really demonstrates the universality of these struggles.
Oh, totally. I love that because it's you're not alone in those tough times.
Right.
Okay, what other segments did they come up with?
Another one was How I Got Here.
Right.
And this one is a quick hit.
Okay.
It focuses on one pivotal decision or one moment.
No.
That changed everything for that guest. It could be, that one investment or that chance meeting or one tiny little choice that had this huge ripple effect on their whole journey.
Yeah, because it's not always a straight climb to the top.
Exactly.
It can be so winding and unexpected.
And I think it's really good to showcase the importance of being adaptable and open to opportunities and even embracing those unexpected detours.
Yeah, because sometimes the detours can be better than the original path you thought you were going to be on.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, what about the listeners? How do we bring them into the conversation?
Oh, yeah. So they had an idea for a viewer submissions segment.
Okay.
And this would be where listeners contribute their own questions or their struggles or even mini success stories that they have.
Oh, I love that.
It's a really cool way to make the podcast interactive and build kind of a community.
Oh, yeah, because then it's not just a one-way street.
Right.
And people can feel a part of it.
Exactly.
And learn from each other, too.
Totally. And I think it really aligns with the whole vulnerability thing.
Yeah.
By sharing their own experiences, listeners become active participants in this whole conversation.
Yeah.
About success. It's like a movement.
It's creating a movement.
For authenticity.
Yeah.
And shared growth.
I love that. Okay, so we've got vulnerability, we've got diverse storytelling, we've got a sense of community. What else sets it apart?
Well, they had some interesting points about strong visuals.
Oh, yeah, they talked about that.
Especially for YouTube.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it gets really exciting. Imagine, those raw and honest stories that we were just talking about, but brought to life visually. Behind the scenes footage, personal photos, maybe even animations to illustrate concepts.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm picturing this visual style that's polished, but also raw.
Yeah.
Exactly. Reflecting the contrast between the polished image of success and then the
reality behind it.
Messy reality behind it. Yeah. I like that. Okay, but what about the content itself? What kind of episodes? Did they mention any specific episode ideas that they're tossing around?
Yeah, they had a few.
Okay.
One was an episode on Kylie Jenner and how she built a $1 billion brand before she even turned 25.
Okay, that's a flashy one.
Right.
Yeah.
But think about it, though. The insights into, like, entrepreneurship, especially in, like, the digital age.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
But how do they avoid it just being another celebrity success story?
I think you have to dig deeper. Maybe focus on, like, specific tactics she used, or, analyze her target audience.
Oh, yeah.
Explore how she leveraged social media.
Yeah.
To build a brand that resonates with millions.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what would make it actually valuable for the listener.
Totally.
Is like, what can I actually learn from this?
Exactly. It's about extracting those valuable lessons, not just celebrating her wealth.
Yeah. Okay.
Another one they suggested was an episode about Elon Musk. And his story has been told a lot.
Right.
But what if we focused on one specific challenge he faced, like the near bankruptcy of Tesla?
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
Because he's known for his risk-taking. So if we analyze his decision-making process during that critical moment, I feel like that would be fascinating.
Did he double down? Did he make compromises? What did he do?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I like that.
So it makes it relatable even to someone who's not trying to build a tech empire. We all face moments where we have to make tough calls.
Totally.
And understanding how someone like him navigates those situations can be super valuable.
Okay, I'm sold on those two. Any others that stick out?
One that really resonated with me was an episode focusing on the mental health struggles entrepreneurs often face.
Oh, yeah. That's something you don't hear enough about.
Yeah.
All the pressure, the uncertainty, the constant hustle.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes a toll.
Imagine featuring someone who's been open about their own mental health journey.
Yeah.
While building a successful business. I feel like that would be so validating for listeners that are facing similar challenges.
Absolutely.
It kind of shows that you're not alone and that seeking help is not a weakness.
It's actually a sign of strength.
Yeah.
Okay,
that one I think could be really impactful. But how do we get it in front of the people who need to hear it?
Well, they emphasized a lot on cross-promotion, like partnering with motivational speakers or entrepreneurs or, popular YouTubers.
Okay.
To do like maybe live episodes. Guest crossovers.
Yeah, that makes sense because then you could tap into audiences that already exist.
Right.
And maybe they wouldn't have even known about the podcast or thought that they needed this type of content.
Yeah.
But if they follow that other person, then
totally.
It's a good way to reach new people.
And I think even collaborating with like other podcasts or YouTubers who are focused on like business or self-improvement or success stories.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about finding the right audience.
Right, yeah.
Who's already interested in this stuff.
Okay, so building a community beyond just the podcast itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. What about attracting viewers on YouTube?
Yeah.
Because they talked about using like strategic SEO.
Right.
What does that even mean for like a podcast like this?
That's all about like what are people searching for, and crafting titles that like grab their attention. Like think about titles like How I Went from Homeless to Millionaire.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see it.
Right. Or The Secret Habits of Successful Entrepreneurs.
I can already see those popping up in YouTube search.
Right.
Yeah, those are really compelling.
Yeah.
But beyond the click, how do we actually make sure the viewers stick around and really engage?
I think that's the power of those raw, honest stories.
Yeah.
It's got to be content that resonates on an emotional level. Makes people feel seen and understood.
Yeah, you got to go beyond the surface.
Yeah.
And like explore the human experience behind it.
Exactly. It's like saying, hey, you're not alone in this. Success isn't always pretty, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that can resonate with a lot of people.
I agree. I think this podcast has the potential to tap into something very universal. But let's take a pause there.
Okay.
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah.
And we'll pick up next time.
Yeah. It's about going beyond just the highlight reel, and showing the grit, the resilience, the moments of doubt, all those things that actually shape the journey.
And I think that's what makes it so compelling is like that realness, that authenticity.
Right.
So, okay, we talked a lot about like the why behind this podcast concept, like the need for vulnerability, the power of these relatable stories.
Okay.
But let's dive a little bit deeper into the how. We talked about the viewer submission segment earlier.
Yeah.
How do you think they can really make that interactive and foster like genuine connection?
It's all about creating a space where listeners feel comfortable sharing their own experiences,
Yeah.
asking questions,
Yeah.
and even like giving each other advice. What if there was like a dedicated platform, like a forum or like a social media group where listeners can connect
I love when-
beyond the podcast?
Yeah, like an extension of the conversation that goes beyond just the episodes.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then we could even like feature selected listener stories or questions in the podcast itself.
Right.
Give them a voice.
Yeah. Exactly. And to like encourage even more engagement.
Yeah.
What if we had like live Q&A sessions or even virtual workshops where listeners could interact with the guests or with each other?
Oh, that's a really good idea.
No?
Yeah, like in real time.
In real time.
So it becomes this like multifaceted experience.
Totally.
Instead of just listening passively,
Right.
you're actively involved. Okay, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Speaking of like captivating content, let's circle back to those episode ideas.
Yeah.
We talked about Kylie Jenner and Elon Musk, but who else could we feature to like showcase the diversity of the hustle?
One suggestion that I thought was really interesting was an entrepreneur who built a successful business,
Okay.
but while being a primary caregiver.
Ooh, that's a powerful story.
Right.
Because it kind of challenges that traditional
Exactly.
notion of the hustle where it's all about like long hours and sacrificing your personal life and all of that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
This episode could explore like the challenges of balancing caregiving with like the demands of running a business.
And I think it would resonate with so many people,
Total.
especially working parents
Yeah.
who are constantly juggling like
Oh my
a
God.
million different roles. And I think it would be so inspiring to see how someone navigates all of that,
Yeah.
you know, and still creates this thriving business without sacrificing their family.
Yeah, like redefining what success looks like.
Right.
You know, like it doesn't have to be at the expense of like personal fulfillment
Exactly.
and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, what about someone who maybe achieved success later in life?
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe they took a non-traditional path,
Right.
or they faced setbacks early on,
Yeah.
and then they,
Okay.
you know, finally made it.
That's a great way to challenge the idea that success has like an expiration date,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
It would be so inspiring to hear a story like that.
yeah. Like it's never too late
Right.
to pursue your passion, and success can come in so many different forms
Yeah.
at any point in your life.
Yeah.
But we have to be mindful of the potential pitfalls here.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with a podcast like this, it's easy to maybe glamorize the hustle
Yeah.
and overlook like systemic factors that contribute to either success or failure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's crucial to acknowledge those systemic factors and,
Yeah.
and showcase a diverse range of experiences.
Yeah. You need to hear from people that faced barriers, you know,
Right.
whether it's socioeconomic disadvantage or discrimination or lack of access to resources.
Totally.
I feel like those stories are just as important,
Yeah.
if not more so,
Yeah.
because it really highlights the resilience
Yeah.
and determination that's required to overcome those obstacles.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about showcasing like the human spirit,
Yeah.
you know, thriving even in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
And it's also challenging that notion of a level playing field
Right.
because it doesn't really exist, you know?
Yeah, acknowledging that. But also like approaching those stories with sensitivity and nuance.
Yeah,
You don't want to glorify the struggle,
for sure.
but also like celebrate the strength and perseverance of those who
Right,
made
right.
it through.
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah. Okay, what about the visual style for these episodes? We talked about incorporating like personal photos and behind the scenes footage.
Yeah.
How else can we use visuals to like enhance the emotional impact of these stories?
What about using animation
Oh,
to illustrate key moments?
okay.
You know, bring their struggles and their triumphs to life visually.
Okay.
Like, say, if someone's talking about facing a major setback,
Yeah.
we can use animation to depict that moment in a way that's like symbolic or metaphorical.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like adding another layer of
Yeah.
storytelling that
That's
goes
just
beyond just words.
Right. And we could even create like a visual motif that runs throughout the whole podcast, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Something that signalizes like the ups and downs of the hustle.
Oh, that's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So like it creates a visual identity
Yeah.
for the podcast itself.
Totally.
Okay. And it kind of ties all those stories together.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Speaking of tying things together, we haven't talked about music yet.
Oh, yeah.
How do we use music to like create the right mood and atmosphere?
Music is so crucial for setting the tone. I think for this podcast, we need a soundtrack that's kind of like a blend of upbeat
Yeah.
and like introspective music,
Okay.
reflecting, the highs and lows of the hustle.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we can use music to transition between segments,
I like,
key moments,
yeah,
create a sense of momentum as the story's unfolding.
right. It's like guiding the listener's emotional journey.
Yeah. Creating like a truly immersive experience.
Right.
But music can be expensive.
Yeah.
Are there creative ways we can like source music without breaking the bank?
There's tons of royalty-free music libraries,
Yeah.
And we could even reach out to up-and-coming musicians
Oh, yeah.
who would be interested in having their music featured.
Okay. It's like a win-win for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of supporting others, we got to talk about the business side of this podcast.
Right.
How do we make it sustainable and reach its full potential?
I think strategic partnerships are key.
Okay.
We talked about cross-promotion with other YouTubers and podcasters, but we can also look at collaborations with brands
Oh, yeah.
that align with the podcast's values.
Okay, but we have to be selective.
Of course.
Because we don't want to like compromise
Right.
the authenticity or the integrity of the podcast
Totally.
by partnering with brands that don't
Yeah.
share our vision.
It has to be brands that really believe in this whole vulnerability thing.
Yeah.
Like real storytelling.
What kind of brands do you think would be a good fit?
I think companies that offer resources for entrepreneurs or like mental health services
Mm-hmm.
or even financial literacy programs.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's creating like a synergy.
Right.
Where both the podcast and the brand are like adding value
Exactly.
to each other's audiences.
Oh.
And it's not just about financial sustainability. It's also about like
Yeah.
amplifying the message
For sure.
and reaching a wider audience.
It's all about creating that ripple effect.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
But even with the best partnerships, even with the most compelling content,
Yeah.
we still need a really strong marketing strategy
Yeah.
to get this podcast in front of the right people.
Right.
So what are some innovative ways we can market this podcast to make it stand out?
Well, social media is key.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we need a strong presence on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter.
Right.
Sharing behind the scenes stuff,
Yeah.
engaging with listeners,
Yeah.
building that community. But we got to think beyond the usual platforms
Yeah.
too.
Okay. What do you have in mind?
What if we created like short, impactful video clips from the podcast
Uh-huh.
and share those on YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
those bite-sized pieces of content, it can pique people's interest,
Yeah.
and draw them into the full episodes.
Oh, I like that. And then you can reach people who aren't necessarily actively searching for podcasts,
Right.
but they're just consuming content
Exactly.
on those platforms anyway.
It's about meeting people where they are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
And then we can also use email marketing,
Okay.
Create a newsletter,
Yeah.
share exclusive content,
Okay.
behind the scenes insights, updates.
Okay, so you stay top of mind with your audience.
Totally. And nurture those relationships,
Okay. Yeah, that's a good strategy. What about traditional media?
Okay.
Is there a place for that?
Definitely. We can explore opportunities to get featured in like publications
Yeah.
or even like radio or TV. It's all about leveraging those traditional channels to reach a wider audience.
Yeah.
And I think it also lends credibility to the podcast,
Oh, yeah. Okay, so like a multi-pronged approach.
Totally.
Okay, I like that. But beyond the marketing, what about the long-term vision for this podcast?
Yeah.
Where do we see it going?
I envision it becoming like a platform for change,
Okay.
a movement that goes beyond just entertainment and actually inspires action.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We can host live events, create workshops, develop educational resources
Yeah.
to really empower listeners to apply these lessons in their own lives.
So it's turning those conversations into like
Yeah,
tangible impact
totally.
and empowering the listeners to become like agents of change
Right.
in their own communities.
Exactly. Creating that ripple effect.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Well,
We've
yeah.
explored the why, the how, and the potential impact
Right.
of this podcast concept.
Totally.
But before we wrap up, let's take a moment to consider the ethical considerations that come with telling these stories.
Yeah, for sure. It's crucial to approach these stories with sensitivity and respect. we don't want to exploit anyone's vulnerability for entertainment.
Yeah, you want to prioritize the well-being of the guests and make sure that they feel safe and supported
Totally.
throughout the process.
Absolutely.
And also be mindful of the potential for triggering content.
Yeah.
And maybe provide resources for listeners
Right.
who might be struggling.
You got to avoid any sensationalization of
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah. So telling these stories with empathy and nuance,
Right.
recognizing that everyone's experience is unique and complex.
Totally. It's about finding that balance between authenticity
Right.
and responsibility. We want to honor the stories, but we also want to make sure it's a safe space,
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
for the listeners.
Yeah. That's a delicate balance,
It is.
but I think it's essential
Yeah.
to get it right.
For sure.
Okay. I think that's a perfect place to pause for now. We've delved deep into the nuances of this podcast concept,
Yeah,
exploring its potential, its challenges, its ethical implications.
totally. It is a big responsibility. We
Mhm.
got to make sure we do it right.
For sure. For sure. Okay, so before we wrap up this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
let's revisit some of those segment ideas and see if we can flesh them out a little bit more.
Okay.
We talked about the struggle where guests share their lowest points.
Right.
How can we structure that to make it impactful but also insightful?
Instead of just having them recount their struggles, what if we frame it as like a journey of transformation?
Okay.
So we could start by like exploring what was the catalyst, you know?
Yeah.
What was that moment when everything shifted?
Okay.
And then dive into like, you know, the emotional challenges, the logistical challenges, the decisions they made, the resources they leaned on.
I like that because it shows like the process
Yeah.
of navigating those times and not just focusing on the pain,
Yeah.
but actually like what can we learn from this experience?
Totally. And to add like another layer to it,
Yeah.
what if we got some expert commentary?
Oh,
Like imagine having a therapist or a business coach
okay.
weigh in on the guest's experience,
Okay.
offer some insights, you know, psychological, strategic.
Yeah, like giving some actionable takeaways
Right, exactly.
that people can actually apply to their own lives.
Exactly. It's like, here's what you can learn and here's some tools
Yeah.
you can use.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's move on to the How I Got Here segment.
Okay.
We talked about focusing on those pivotal moments.
Right.
That changed everything for the guest.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that that segment is more than just like a highlight reel?
Yeah. Instead of just like recounting the events.
Right.
What if we explore the decision-making process
Oh,
behind it?
okay.
What factors did they consider? What
Yeah.
risks did they take?
Yeah, what were the stakes?
Yeah. What were the consequences? You know?
Yeah, okay, so making it more analytical and
Totally. And to make it even more relatable, I think it would be cool to encourage guests to share like their doubts, their fears, their moments of uncertainty
yeah.
leading up to those decisions.
Yeah, because nobody makes a decision like that.
Yeah.
And they're 100% sure
Exactly.
of the outcome.
Right.
And I think that's important to show. Like, even the most accomplished people
Yeah.
still have those moments of doubt.
Totally.
And it's normal.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's humanizing them.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to have all the answers.
Right.
You know?
It's messy. It's unpredictable. It's rarely a straight line.
Right, exactly. Okay, and then finally, let's revisit the viewer submissions segment. We talk about creating a platform for listeners to share their stories and connect with each other.
Right.
How can we make sure that segment is meaningful and really adds value to the whole thing?
What if we had like themed episodes
Okay.
where we focus on specific challenges or milestones that listeners are facing? Like we could have an episode on overcoming fear of failure or navigating career transitions.
Oh, I like that it gives it structure. And then
Yeah.
you can really address like
Yeah.
those specific concerns.
Exactly. And within those episodes,
Yeah.
we can feature a mix of stories, expert advice, practical tips,
Yeah.
maybe even have listeners call in
Oh,
and share live.
I love that.
You know?
It's like truly interactive.
It's all about building that community.
Yeah.
You know?
Where people feel supported.
Exactly.
And seen and heard.
Totally. And fostering that sense of like shared learning and growth
Yeah.
where everybody's voice matters.
Yeah.
And we can all learn from each other.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think it's safe to say that this Behind the Hustle podcast concept has the potential to be really special.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's more than just entertainment. It's a platform for connection, inspiration, empowerment.
Yeah.
You know, it's about celebrating that whole messy, unpredictable, but ultimately rewarding journey of pursuing your dreams.
Right.
Whatever they may be.
Totally.
And, you know, if this deep dive has sparked your own curiosity,
Yeah.
think about those people whose stories of struggle and triumph resonate with you.
Yeah.
You know, dive into their journeys, explore their challenges, and I think you might be surprised by what you find
Yeah,
and how it inspires your own path.
for sure.
Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.
See ya!